All right, so I am officially live on YouTube here. I tried this a long time ago, several months ago, on my iPhone, and it worked okay. But I had someone comment on one of my recent videos about maybe going live. Oh, I got one viewer to see how this would go, and so here I am. And if you haven't subscribed to my channel, I've got a little over 200 subscribers. Make sure you click that subscribe button, which, when you talk about non-duality, it's kind of funny because, you may ask yourself, well, why would someone who is into non-duality or has reached the pinnacle of non-dual awareness, why would they care about having subscribers? And that's the funny part because it's kind of like nobody talking to a bunch of nobodies, but but I'd rather talk to a lot of nobodies. So if you have any questions, like I said, this is my first go using the computer to do this live thing. So I think you can type questions if you have any on non-duality. I did want to mention that this weekend, the 19th and 20th, there is the Nothing Conference, which is a virtual conference online. If you go to nothingcon.com, nothingcon.com, you can see all the list of speakers. You're going to have a lot of people doing live talks and that sort of thing over the weekend. And I'm on there as a pre-recorded participant as far as I submitted 3 videos. That's kind of what I've been working on here the last couple weeks. Plus, I've had a bunch of other things going on in my life or not going on in my life. And so that's kind of taken up. I had some difficulties uploading the videos, but I think they got them now. So that should be on their site as well. So I've made some videos for that. And so there's that coming up. What else did I want to mention? So lately with this conference, I've kind of been watching some other non-dual speakers or teachers or people that talk about non-duality, whatever label you want to give them. Watching some of their videos because I think sometimes one of the, I guess you could call it a goal that I have for talking about non-duality is really attempting to make it as clear as possible, even though you can't really directly explain what it is. I mean, obviously, I've said this 100 times, the basic definition is that it's not two. And so anything that appears to be two, you can question that, and it's kind of a starting point. And forgiveness is everywhere at all times. But I've been watching other people, other speakers on YouTube talking about non-duality and kind of seeing where the perspective they came from. And, I think probably the biggest secret that to me makes it a lot more clear when you're first introduced into non-duality, you hear all these different terms and phrases that are used a lot, like there is no person, or the me doesn't exist, and that sort of thing. And so, from the perspective of the me, that doesn't make any sense, and so it gets confusing. But then the more and more you get into it, I think you pick up the language of non-duality, like any other form of communication. You start to kind of, that becomes in a sense almost like a religion, even though non-duality is not a religion, but anything can be made into something by the mind. And so I watched a lot of these talks recently, and I think the biggest secret that really will illuminate maybe your situation, your relationship with non-duality, is that there is no person having the sense of not being a person. So, I think a lot of times with non-duality, if you take the real abrupt approach with there is no, I'm not talking, there is no person, there's no one watching, even though apparently there's two people watching. But if you take that and just make it something that shuts down the thought process, because the mind always wants to say, well, what if, or yes but, or well, what if it's like this, and so the mind tries to come in and make all these stories up or try to understand it, and it's not something the mind can understand. And so a lot of the approaches are just to shut down that immediately. And so it can be a frustrating thing when it's like, well, so how do you become non-dual, or how did you have an awakening? It's like, well, there is no person. There is no awakening. The awakening didn't happen. It's an illusion, or it's just a story we make up. And so that can be one approach to non-duality. And some of those teachers talk about not having a sense of self. So after an awakening, there is no sense of a person here. So what that creates is this sense of dualism, or dualistic belief, where you, the person that is watching me, let's say I say, okay, there is no sense of a person here. You see this right now because we're live, and you're thinking to yourself, well, how do I get to that point? This person that I'm watching, Russ Rapp is what he calls himself. He has this sense of no person. So everything is fine, no big deal, whatever. It's kind of like I'm too cool for school. And I think that's, appealing to a lot of people. And I think it's probably appealing to me to some level, to be this kind of super chill, like nothing bothers you kind of thing. And so when you say there is no sense of there being a person here, because that's just a mental construct, then you watch that and say, well, I don't believe that. I feel like there's a person here. There's flesh and blood, and I have feelings, and I have thoughts. So how's there a non-person? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. So that person, in this case, Russ Rapp, has something that I don't have. He's got this sense that everything is what it is, and there's nothing wrong, and everything's great. And I guess what I would ask is, for some of those, I think when it comes to non-duality, that's what I like talking about it, because there's no way to be wrong. Because even if we're wrong, it doesn't really matter, because that's kind of the message of non-duality. But there's other things in life that you're passionate about, people that you're passionate about, or belief systems, or how you want to make the world a better place. And that's something that is real. That's something that can cause anger if there's frustration with how things are going in the world or in your own life. And so, even if you talk about non-duality, you don't really care about that topic, are there other instances in your life that you do care about? Because I think there's some, I think when I was learning the Enneagram, the type 5 would sometimes fall into the trap of being an unenlightened Buddha, meaning that the whole idea was that, you wanted to get rid of feelings, get rid of anything that you didn't really like about your experience. And so this idea that all of a sudden, I understand non-duality, I have this awakening, and there's no sense of self here, that everything is fine. Like, I'm still gonna, I'm gonna let everything roll off, I'm gonna dust it off, let it, just let things be as they are, and just be at oneness and peace with everything in the world. But if someone's breaking in my house and attacking my family, that's gonna be a different story. It's not gonna be some non-dual master, and that's how I see non-duality. So the biggest secret, if I can kind of sum it up or boil it down, is that you don't have to have this idea of a sense of not being a person. You don't have to own that, because that is just another idea. That's just another concept that keeps you from understanding what the message of non-duality is. So non-duality has nothing to do with the messenger. So whether I'm good at speaking about non-duality, or whether I from the outside act a certain way or think a certain way, that's of no consequence. And so if that's the bar that you're trying to compare yourself to, then you're going to fail like everything else in life when it comes to non-duality, because none of that's true. And I think what ends up happening is that a lot of the people giving talks about non-duality will start referring to themselves in the third person, or say this happens, and you just use verbing, which is great. I mean, because that kind of gets the point across. But then from your perspective, that becomes another structure, another wall that's built up in your mind, where you have to surmount it by becoming that which you think is what you want to be. And so you try to become this non-person, and that's the biggest thing. So then, okay, so the next logical step is, so I'm no longer trying to be a non-person. So now I can just be a person. But wait, that's what I was before. I was a person before. So how can I not be a non-person being a person? It gets really confusing. So then the obvious question that's begged is, what's the point? What's the point of non-duality? And that's a really good question. And I think people come to non-duality because of failure, because they've tried to reach some sort of standard in life, or some sort of idea of enlightenment or inner peace, or trying to achieve something and haven't failed. Or it's just a recognition of what's completely obvious, that this is all there ever is and ever will be. But from a conceptual standpoint, that's a lot of times when people come to the concept of non-duality, is through this idea that you fail and you need to find an answer. And so non-duality is that answer, because it tells you that you'll never find it. So then all of the seeking, all of the wishes, all the hopes and dreams that one day you'll get rid of this anger, or one day you won't be anxious all the time, or one day you'll repair the relationships that you've damaged, or whatever, or one day you'll be rich and you won't have to worry about money. All that is the same thing, the mind wanting something that is not what is, because what is all there is. That's the whole message of non-duality. And we're about 13 minutes in on this sort of a maiden voyage, since I did this last time. But this is kind of fun, and if the two people watching wanna chat something, then I'll respond. But the other thing I wanted to just quick talk about this evening, or whatever time it is when you end up watching this video, if you watch it later on, let me try type something real quick here. I know one. I wrote hi no one. So the other thing I wanted to mention tonight is, so I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos, and I've watched one this evening from Light on Earth, Mandy from Light on Earth, and she talked in the video. So she talks a lot about kind of spiritual ideas, non-duality, and different things like that, and tells a lot of good stories. So I'd recommend checking her channel out and subscribing. But tonight, she was midway through her talk, she was saying that she had started her YouTube channel because she wanted to eventually write a book and have, let me finish this thought here, but Daryl just sent a message. But she had, Mandy had wanted to start a YouTube channel because she wanted to write a book someday and have some people have an audience already kind of there, and which is funny because that's kind of, it was in the back of my mind as I started this YouTube channel, because I've always wanted to write a book and kind of have some of these themes and stuff within those book, within the story. So, but Daryl wrote, do you believe that apparent individual consciousness remains beyond the apparent death of the body? It's a really good question. I would say since I haven't had a near-death experience, I've been watching some videos on that recently, but I haven't personally had one. I don't know exactly what happens after death. I mean, you can follow different religions or other teachings or other personal accounts, but I don't know personally. And I guess, I think that topic obviously comes up because non-duality kind of seems like a death in a way, but it really doesn't say anything specifically about what happens after death. It's kind of a different topic, because whether your individual consciousness continues on, whether it's reincarnation in some other form, or if you're just a floating ball of energy, or you are you're actually like in an embodied being up in some Valhalla, heaven, whatever you want to call it. The truth of non-duality is still there, regardless of whatever the dimension or whatever the experience is. The non-duality is always there. But does individual conscious remain? I think for me personally, I've had some, I guess you'd call, energetic experiences, out-of-body type experiences in the past. So I think there definitely is something to having consciousness outside of the body. But from my perspective, I don't know if the body and the brain dies, if that connection is severed, what happens? To answer your question, I don't know. But I do appreciate the question. So yeah, and I think I wanted to say something else about Mandy's video, Light on Earth. She said something, let me pull it up here. I can pull it up on my phone. Oh, breaking the third wall. I don't know exactly what that means, but it was a really good video, so check that one out. If you know, let me know. But all right, so we're about 18 minutes. I'm gonna probably wrap it up here. Say thanks to Daryl. If you can tell, it's a little door. It's the secret door behind me. I don't know what comes out of there at night. It's probably something spooky. Well, I like this live stuff because I can just say whatever I want. Whether or not anyone actually will watch to 20 minutes, I don't know. But so I should probably plug the non-duality conference one more time. So Nothing Conference, nothingcon.com. Check that out as well. And we'll get it right up to the 20-minute mark. So let me know in the comments if you enjoyed this, or if you had any ideas or thoughts on this live video, because I plan on doing this more here in the next few weeks just to see how it goes. So until next time, peace.